First, leaderless and rudderless. That's the focus of tonight's angle.
The biggest problem here rests with Donald Trump and his vice presidential candidate as to whether they're going to be big enough to accept the results of the election.
This is probably the most important election in our lifetime, and we have to make sure that we get it right.
I'm concerned about what they're going to do.
Well, those are all fake, right? And as the angle predicted, the Democrats were just projecting. They couldn't deny Trump's win, not the size of it this time, but they still won't concede in that Pennsylvania Senate race won by Republican Dave McCormick.
Across our Commonwealth, close to 7 million people cast their votes in a free and fair election. Our county election officials will finish counting those votes just like they do in every election. The American democratic process was born in Pennsylvania, and that process will play out.
It's a shock with that energy level that he didn't immediately get reelected. Well, he's just another Democratic election denier. There's a whole trail of them. So what happens when the so-called threat to democracy wins a Democratic majority? Not just the Electoral College, but makes historic gains with other groups and wins the popular vote as well.
Mr. President, is Trump still a threat to democracy?
And if Trump really had fascistic impulses, it would be kind of odd for Biden to have invited him to visit the White House tomorrow, right? Well, of course, this is why this was always a vicious and desperate lie. But still, the propaganda did have some effect. According to AP VoteCast, about 2/3 of Harris voters said the future of democracy was the most important factor for their votes. Apparently, groceries didn't matter. And 9 out of 10 were concerned that electing Trump would bring the country closer to authoritarianism, say the people who want us to eat bugs. Again, all based on lies. Trump never used the DOJ to attack his political opponents. He never flooded the country with illegal immigrants to wipe out your votes or, fought against requiring IDs to vote, all of which compromises our democratic system. Which is why it should not surprise anyone that the same voter survey also demonstrated that 1 in 3 Trump voters cited saving democracy as their primary motivator. And of those, 8 in 10 of the Trump voters felt electing Harris would bring the country closer to authoritarianism. How interesting. And given Kamala's own record and her own well-documented views, those fears were well-founded. Thankfully, enough of you dismissed the anti-Trump smears and saw Harris and her puppet masters for what they are: threats to our freedom, to our economy, and to our way of life. But like mercury, remember what used to fall out of an old broken thermometer? The Democrat machine will reconstitute itself. And to do that effectively, they're wrestling over what went wrong. And at times it's gotten fairly brutal. Bernie Sanders smashed the out-of-touch party bureaucracy that lost the working class, saying in a statement, "Will the big money interests and well-paid consultants who control the Democratic Party learn any real lesson from this disastrous campaign? Probably not." No, that's a safe bet. But if there is a real effort to redefine the party, the progressives, they're worrying about being sidelined. And if they are worried, if they are sidelined, they have no one but themselves to blame. They are all sellouts. And Bernie's kind of a sellout, too, because they compromised their anti-war cred by standing mute when Liz Cheney became Kamala's de facto running mate. But now they're trashing Democrats who pivot from more radical positions?
I think that a lot of voters really don't like fake people. If during the entire time in campaign season, you're saying that you're down with trans people or the LGBT community, and then you lose an election, and then the next day you say all that stuff was wrong. I actually think what people are more upset about is someone was doing something they didn't believe and just saying something.
So articulate. Now, AOC is grousing about people like Congressman Seth Moulton, who post-election claimed that his party had gone too extreme, saying that I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or a formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that. Well, that kicked off the family feud. Grab the popcorn.
I wonder then what your response was to Congressman Seth Moulton, who suggested this week that Democrats need to change their approach to transgender issues.
I just find that to be an offensive comment, actually. I don't think that just trying to instill fear and joining a party that is instilling fear in people is the right way to go about this.
Well, it's about time we saw some cracks in the Democrat wall, the monolith. Past the junior mints.
I do want to give you a chance to explain your comments because you know they have faced backlash.
The backlash I've received proves my point that we can't even have these discussions as a party. Instead, we have a wing of our party that shames us, that tries to cancel people who even bring up these difficult topics, and frankly, shames voters.
Well, given the inroads that Trump has made with young voters, Latino and black voters in urban America, even some in California, what the heck can Democrats offer? Abortion and saving democracy did not get it done. So why will it get it done in 2028? And given the epic failures of policy and messaging, who's left in the party with any credibility and any influence? Now, after the Trump win, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries sounded like he's auditioning for something.
We have problems that we have to solve. We've got to make sure, of course, that we fix our broken immigration system and we secure the border. We have to make sure that we lower costs and grow the middle class. I think we're going to have a family conversation that needs to be clear-eyed, candid, and comprehensive to figure out what happened on election night.
Well, that's a tall order. But with Kamala going down in flames, with the Obamas, they're getting burned, with Pelosi getting old, Democrats need someone to lead them. And when the bench isn't really deep, well, Jeffries actually becomes a viable candidate. Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett calling Jeffries the ultimate point guard with on-court discipline. Now, of course, in this Democrat regrouping period, let's not forget the guy who Kamala stupidly passed over, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, a very talented politician. He's a lot more likely than California liberal Gavin Newsom to gain traction, and we can only hope that Democrats may look at Mayor Pete for something important. Talk about a train wreck. Yes, that's a DOT joke. Good luck with Pete. Anyway, this parlor game is going to continue for years. I can't wait to watch it unfold. And someone new could emerge with just the sort of passion we need.
Y'all need to leave me the alone because I got one more cigarette in me before I start lighting up. All right? And that's word to the United States of mother America. Yeah.
You never know. She has a very big TikTok following. And that's the angle.
There's an exhilarating startup culture emanating out of Mar-a-Lago, where Trump and his transition team are pulling in the best and brightest into rooms and asking them, what do you got? Elon Musk has a seat at the table, and he's spitballing ideas that have never been tried in government. He's been camped out at Mar-a-Lago and sitting in on hiring sessions. And Trump's drinking in Elon's ideas and stress testing them. Axios says the two billionaires are fusing into a new powerful governing media paradigm. Elon calls himself the first buddy. Trump's granddaughter, Kai, says Elon's already achieving uncle status. The transition team's moving fast and already shaking up Washington. And this just in. Fox News alert, Donald Trump has announced that he's nominating Fox News host Pete Hegseth to serve as Secretary of Defense. Pete's a decorated Army combat vet who did tours in Iraq and Afghanistan and has been a fierce advocate for veterans on and off the air. He's a Princeton and Harvard guy and a great husband and father and one of our favorite people here at Fox. No one loves America more than Pete, and no one will defend our interests at home and abroad with more seriousness and strength. He'll be working right alongside former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe, who has just been named CIA Director. Besides running intelligence ops, we expect Ratcliffe to facilitate the release of the government files on the JFK assassination, the Epstein case, the lab leak, Hunter Biden's sugar brother, and the Trump assassination attempts. That would rebuild trust with the American people. Although I'm not sure if we can expect full transparency from a CIA director. We'll see. And this also just in. President Trump has just announced that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will be in charge of dismantling government bureaucracy, slashing regulations, cutting wasteful spending, and just restructuring bloated agencies. These two will lead the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, D-O-G-E. Trump likens it to the Manhattan Project, which will make the government leaner and more effective in order to better serve the American people. The government's long been an orgy of fraud and abuse, and Trump promises that although it'll send shockwaves through D.C., it'll ultimately be a gift to the American people on our 250th birthday, which we'll be celebrating in 2026. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem has been tapped to be Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank God Mayorkas is gone. This is a big job for Governor Noem. She'll oversee the Secret Service, FEMA, Border Patrol, and ICE. That's a lot of bureaucracy to wrap your arms around. Bureaucracy with a lot of problems. She'll have her work cut out for her. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee has just been named ambassador to Israel. Not Jewish, but close enough. We're still waiting for Trump to name his Attorney General, Treasury Secretary, Press Secretary, and Health and Human Services person. We're wondering where RFK Jr. is going to land, along with Tulsi Gabbard. As Trump picks his cabinet, the world is watching. Iran has done a 180. The mullahs are saying, President Trump, sorry we tried to kill you. Let's make peace. And the president of South Korea is practicing his golf swing for the first time in 8 years. He's expecting to play a few rounds with 47. Oh, and the media is in full retreat. Reports say CNN's going to be axing top stars and making others take pay cuts. Chris Wallace just resigned from CNN out of the blue. Comcast has been thinking of spinning off and selling MSNBC. And we all know what's going on at the Washington Post. Oh, and Mark Cuban just got caught deleting all of his pro-Harris tweets, like no one would notice. Every Democrat's trying to wipe away any fingerprints they've left on this campaign. The Obamas are coming out and saying it wasn't our idea to put Kamala in. We wanted a primary. Blame the Biden people.
The people who are giving these unnamed quotes are the people who are in this kind of bubble of enablers that should have gone to him long ago and said, cash in your chips, boss. You'll be thought of more highly.
Right.
And you'll give your party a better chance to win. But they are all, holding hands in this circle of denial.
No, they were part of the cover-up.
If he had walked away, it would have been country over self. I think people would have admired him for it. And it really, anyway, I've said my piece.
Nancy Pelosi says the same thing. It's all Biden's fault. But the ladies of The View, they're going to bat for Joe.
If you've got nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. I mean, why, Nancy? Why? I find this so unproductive, so nasty, so unnecessary. It's like she wants to make sure that people know it wasn't her. She has no blame in this. I said Biden should have gotten out earlier. I said there shouldn't have been a primary. Don't blame me. I think it's really unseemly. It's done, folks. Donald Trump won, and he won decisively. Stop blaming Joe Biden. Eso es muy feo, muy, muy feo.
Muy feo. Bernie's been running to the cameras telling everybody, I told you so. And now AOC's backing him up. She's calling Kamala fake.
Personally, I don't. I think that a lot of voters really don't like fake people, and they're sick and tired of fake politicians. And so what I actually think is worse is saying something you don't believe. And then you lose an election, and then the next day you say all that stuff was wrong. I actually think what people are more upset about is someone was doing something they didn't believe and just saying something. Like, if you actually weren't about that life, why did you campaign as though you were?
Everyone's running away from Harris. And why wouldn't they? She burned them for $1 billion and wasn't even close. Her campaign looks like one big fat money laundering operation. She was shaking down billionaires to pay millionaires. Oprah was forced to admit, yeah, she was paid $1 million for her Kamala interview. She says, I did not take any personal fee. However, the people who worked on that production needed to be paid and were. End of story. She's not the only one. Just weeks before Kamala did an interview with Al Sharpton, the Harris campaign donated $500,000 to Reverend's nonprofit. That's according to the Free Beacon. Why is Kamala's presidential campaign funneling $500,000 to the National Action Network right before an interview with Al? The National Action Network. Why is a political campaign bribing Al Sharpton with charitable donations? Do you know what Al Sharpton does with money from his nonprofit? The Rev, in 1 year, spent $1 million on private jets and limos. It's a slush fund for the Reverend and his crew. It's been in trouble with the IRS for years for tax evasion. And Kamala's like, oh, here you go. Take $500,000. Imagine if you gave Kamala $500,000 to win Pennsylvania, and she just handed it to Al to take a private jet to Tahiti. Happy DEI Thursday. This is the same campaign that the media said was perfect.
Kamala Harris ran basically a flawless campaign.
I think because she ran an incredible campaign, it's been very telling about who we are.
She ran a flawless campaign, and I maintain that. This really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign.
I mean, it was flawless if you were Al Sharpton. But the Raging Cajun, he's headed up to here and wants the entire Democrat establishment to just do a walk of shame out of Washington and repent for their sins.
Justify what you did wrong and tell us what you're going to do different, because what you've done ain't worth. All right? Get your head around that. In all of the Washington-based Democrats farting around, going to wine and cheese parties and talking about how misogynistic race comes, get your ass out of Washington and go work on a 2026 campaign and do penance to make up for your goddamn arrogance and stupidity.
All the Democrats can now do is just pray for the second coming. Hopefully for them, another Messiah just mysteriously appears out of Hawaii.
And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, the 2024 election is in the books, and Thanksgiving, we have a lot to be thankful for, is just around the corner. But unfortunately, some on the radical left, they are determined to use the holiday season to take another political stand. They want to cast out their own family and close friends. I'm not making it up. You decide.
I completely understand her point, because I really do feel that this candidate, President-elect Trump, is just a different type of candidate. From the things he's said and the things he's done and the things he will do, it's more of a moral issue for me.
Don't want to be at Thanksgiving dinner with her. Probably turkey legs, mashed potatoes being thrown around. Anyway, tonight we're going to take a step back. Dr. Drew Pinsky is going to join us with advice how to navigate what will be a very challenging holiday season for so many families with loved ones who are totally consumed with Trump derangement syndrome. But while hysteria continues on the left, Donald Trump is getting to work big time. Breaking only moments ago, Donald Trump announced that our good friend and our colleague, Pete Hegseth, he will be nominated as the Secretary of Defense. Now, Pete is an Army veteran. He served in Iraq. He served in Afghanistan. He also earned 2 Bronze Stars. He also holds degrees from Princeton and Harvard and has made it his life's work to advocate for our veterans and active duty service members. His passion is and has always been the U.S. military, and that I know is a fact. And that's not all. The president-elect also announced that Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will lead the new Department of Government Efficiency. Get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. Wouldn't that be great? According to Elon Musk, quote, this will send shock waves through the system. Anyone involved in government waste, which is a lot of people, well, their work will conclude no later than July 4th, 2026. As President Trump stated, quote, this will be the perfect gift to America on the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Meanwhile, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, my senator, is now expected to be tapped as Donald Trump's Secretary of State. Former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe, he has now been picked to lead the CIA. Congressman Mike Waltz, a decorated Green Beret, will join Trump as his national security advisor. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem has been picked to be the Homeland Security Secretary. And former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, who will join us in just a moment. He has been nominated as the next U.S. ambassador to Israel. As FoxNews.com put it, Donald Trump is forming his cabinet at breakneck speed compared to 2016. And tomorrow, the president-elect, he is scheduled to be at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue to meet at the White House with Joe Biden. Earlier today, when asked about his meeting, Karine Jean-Pierre was short on details, as per usual. What a shock. Take a look.
Did President Biden invite Vice President Harris to this meeting with Donald Trump tomorrow?
This is a meeting with the president and the president-elect. This is the norm, that the incoming president and the current president sit down in the Oval Office and have a discussion, and that's what you're going to see tomorrow is the norm. What we normally would see when we are talking about a peaceful transition of power.
President Biden says that he's not going to pardon his son Hunter. Is he going to ask Donald Trump to do that?
I don't have anything else to share about that. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole on this. I've been very clear. The president's been very clear when we've been asked this question.
In reality, this is not business as usual. In fact, that will be a running theme throughout the second Trump term. And as for Hunter Biden and that pardon, the president-elect is not ruling it out for the sake of national unity. We will find out in the days, weeks, and months to come. On the campaign trail, President Trump said he wouldn't take it off the books, despite the egregious lawfare by the Biden administration and the fact that Hunter is, quote, a bad guy, or a bad boy, to quote him exactly. Now, Melania Trump, on the other hand, well, is not quite as forgiving, and I don't blame her. According to the New York Post, she declined an invitation to meet with Dr. Jill Biden tomorrow, citing the unprecedented raid at Mar-a-Lago authorized by the weaponized Department of Justice of Joe Biden, saying, quote, a source saying, she ain't going. A source familiar with Melania's decision told the Post Jill Biden's husband authorized the FBI snooping through her underwear drawer, and the Bidens are disgusting. And Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, remember this, they both had top secret classified information. Joe had it in 4 separate locations. Their homes were not invaded. Donald Trump never had used BleachBit or used hammers and removed SIM cards and broke up devices. But this weaponization of justice must forever, Democrat, Republican, end. It has got to stop. The DOJ, the FBI being politicized, intel agencies politicized, they now need to return forever to their original non-political purpose and their former greatness. That has got to be the goal. But the Bidens will soon be out of the White House once and for all. And on January 20th, 2025, the reckoning will begin in the Washington swamp. The monolithic far-left city that does not represent the whole of America is about to be rocked to its core. But despite the fear-mongering on the left, Donald Trump is not threatening democracy. He's not threatening our Constitution. America's massive bureaucracy, on the other hand, will soon face a very heavy dose of reality. Again, this is not going to be business as usual. That is not what the American people voted for. The decentralization of power, as our founders intended, is very much on its way to D.C. And the new Department of Government Efficiency will take an axe to government waste, fraud, and abuse. In fact, Trump now plans to eliminate the entire Department of Education, send that money directly to the states. They would better know how to use it. Other departments like the EPA and the Bureau of Land Management can soon be relocated outside of the Washington swamp, and expect to see a major overhaul of the DOJ, DHS, and the FBI's Washington field office. Government agencies have been unaccountable and, frankly, out of control for far too long. And a pervasive far-left bias has tarnished America's once great institutions. They need to be restored. The only way to carry out the MAGA agenda and restore equal justice under the law is to reform America's bloated anti-Trump bureaucracy. Now, this will be a tall order, but it is one of the most important things the president must do at the very beginning of his administration. The stakes are high. The problems are big. The border, it must be secured immediately. Millions of criminal, illegal immigrants, including gang members, cartel members, drug dealers, people that we know are murderers and rapists, those that are known terrorists, they must be found, they must be deported. peace, law, and order must be restored in every small town and every big city and around the world. America must now lead the way with energy dominance, innovation, development. Americans should not have to settle for a townhouse instead of a home with a backyard. Trump can and will restore the American dream and get government off of your back. It's called freedom. For far too long, Democratic elites in Washington, they have exerted their powers like petty tyrants. Those days, hopefully, will soon be over and end, and America will start functioning like a true republic once again.
Yes. Happy 1 week anniversary. Happy Tuesday, everybody. So the trailer for Mission Impossible 8 just premiered. In this latest installment, Tom Cruise faces his most impossible mission yet: find a job for Kamala Harris. Yeah, in 2025, it looks like Republicans will now control the Senate, the House, and the White House. Yeah. Meanwhile, the only thing that Democrats still control is Rashida Tlaib's shock collar. Donald Trump has named Kristi Noem as his Secretary of Homeland Security. Wow. Okay. As a result, you'll never guess who's threatening to move to Canada. We're not going to let that slide yet. 13 monkeys are still on the loose in South Carolina after a dramatic escape last week from a research facility. In related news, guess who came down with monkeypox? He's their senator, you know? Meanwhile, the remaining 30 monkeys are already back in the lab testing a cure for baldness, much to the relief of this man. George Clooney is taking a step back from politics after being blamed for Kamala's loss. He says he's going to stay out of the public eye by continuing to make movies. Looks like Chris Wallace is leaving CNN. Yeah. Wallace says it's an effort to better identify with CNN's viewing audience. Made you think, didn't it? The more you know. And Mattel is pulling thousands of Wicked dolls off the shelf because the package contains the address for a porn site. No apology necessary, said one happy customer. I don't get that joke, but maybe I'm not supposed to. So 4 years ago, Joe Biden made Kamala Harris the border czar. Then when she did nothing, the legacy media insisted she never was the border czar, as if we were the ones with dementia. After 4 years of chaos at the southern border and illegal alien criminals creating havoc on America's streets, President-elect Donald Trump announced that Tom Homan, his former director of ICE, Homan will be the new border czar. He'll be in charge of all deportation of illegals back to their countries of origin. Of course, this won't be popular among the usual suspects, but I wonder if Homan cares what people think about him, especially on the left.
Well, frankly, I don't care what people think about me, especially on the left. So I don't care what anybody's opinion is on illegal immigration. When you create a crisis this big, all these other bad things happen. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or independent. Border security is national security.
So he doesn't care what people think of him. Just look at him. Do you doubt him? I mean, look up the phrase "doesn't give a," and you're going to find that picture. I mean, he'll make migrants turn back just by glaring at him. I'm scared. He scares me, and I'm a citizen. But it's clear he's not angling for his next job, just the one he's been hired to do right now. And sooner the better. Millions of illegal aliens flooded our southern border over the past 4 years because Joe welcomed them
Like they weren't his 5th grandchild. They got debit cards, hotel rooms, even the option of sex changes in prison, no less. Hell, even I would take the sex change. I mean, it's free. I don't want it, but it's free. Like free stuff. But if they listened to the incoming president then, and he didn't even speak English, I bet they'll listen to this one now. It's possible that millions will leave on their own just out of fear of getting arrested. You know, like a lot of us do at Kudlow's house right before animal control arrives. So how will the opposition respond? As always, with language. And it's all about the mass.
The mass deportations that Donald Trump has promised.
The mass deportation pledge that Trump has promised this time around.
Trump's new border czar, who will be tasked with carrying out Trump's mass deportation promises.
The plans for mass deportation.
How Trump will fund this mass deportation plan.
A lot of people thought that when he talked about mass deportations, he wasn't being serious. He was absolutely serious. What it means is grandmothers. What it means is brothers and aunts. Yep. What it means is abuelos y abuelas. It means dreamers. It means family members.
What's Spanish for chill pill? The only dreamer I see is Anna dreaming about eating a box of Oreos. But you see the grift? It's not deportations, it's mass deportations. Emphasis on mass. They've done this before. When the left created hate speech, it was to go after speech by leading with hate. When they came up with assault rifle, it was to go after the gun while playing up the assault. And here, it's distract from deportation by playing up the mass, which raises a question. Can the media tell us the cutoff between mass and not mass? Have they ever given us the difference between mass and just regular old deportations? They never did the math. Then again, no one ever asks. And most of them can't count higher than the number of their remaining refills for Zoloft. Somehow it wasn't mass deportations when Obama did it. You didn't hear the cattle at the View calling him a fascist. Then again, it's hard to understand people when they have a mouthful of field grass. So what's the answer, all you smarty pants? How many people do you allow in every year? Personally, I say 500, and they must know deep tissue massage and look great in athletic gear. But the number can change every year based on what the country needs and what it can handle. It's not a people question, it's an economic one. Everything in life has limits and amounts. You don't pour a 12-ounce beer into a shot glass. And you don't squeeze a circus bear into a size 2 pair of overalls. Now, we know that the left understands limits. In California, with smash and grab thefts, they created a $950 threshold. If you didn't exceed it, then it was only a misdemeanor. That's why in California, my book cost $951. It's odd. The left are happy to decide how much of a bad thing we could endure, but they're flummoxed by good behavior. So just for kicks, ask someone, what's the number you're okay with? They can't give you one because they hold your beliefs to absurd standards. When the left gets into power under the guise of centrism, they move easily to the left. When the right gains power under the same promise of centrism, they cannot move to the right at all. Which means any action to gain control of the border will be defined as intolerable, even if it's pure common sense, which is good news for us. We realize nothing we do will be popular, and that's freeing. AOC can cry, the media can call us fascists. We don't give a You guys, you were the guys that threw this kegger while mommy and daddy were on vacation, and now the adults are home, and it's time to clean up the mess that you made.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.